he shows his movie on the air. It's called Blondie Pays the Rent. That was the name of the movie. And we got a call from someone saying, "You can't show dirty movies on the radio."
Mr. Phil Proctor.
Thank you very much. I really feel like a fish out of water in this wonderful surroundings. But I got some stories. In fact, the reason that I got involved with the Firesign Theatre in the first place, which is a 4-man satirical comedy group, Monty Python before Monty Python. Okay?
Yeah.
One of our records is in the Library of Congress. Don't crush that dwarf, hand me the pliers. That says it all. Well, when I was a kid, I grew up also in New York, East 78th Street. I went to Alan Stevenson School, which had a great orchestra. I learned to play the fiddle there, and I did female roles in Gilbert and Sullivan productions. Normal kind of New York upbringing. And I think, who is it? The New York culture, right? New York culture. I was part of that. So anyway, one of my teachers was the best friend of Helen Hayes, fabulous actress. And I was a child actor, and she asked me if I would understudy Brandon DeWilde in a Broadway play that she was doing called Mrs. McThing, which is about a witch boy. And although I was talented, I was shy, and I said no, so I didn't do it. Many years later, I understudied Brandon DeWilde in a play by Evan Hunter called A Race of Hairy Men, which was a counterculture play. And it was about as successful as that movie. and Brandon and I became immediate bosom buddies. We just became the greatest of pals. And he decided to resuscitate his film career by going out to Hollywood. And we drove out to California together. And of course, he's best known for Shane, the role of the boy. Shane, come back, Shane. Right. And he connected up with Peter Fonda, of all people, when we got out to California. And Peter was researching a little film that he called Captain America. But of course, Marvel Comics wouldn't give him the rights to use Captain America. So he thought for a minute, and actually it was Terry Southern who suggested the title Easy Rider. And you know what an Easy Rider is? Yeah,
it's rolling paper, isn't it?
No. An Easy Rider is the boyfriend of a prostitute who's living off of her earnings. He's an easy rider. So anyway, Peter decided to go to the Sunset Strip to do some research on this movie, which is about the counterculture, the young culture, the emerging culture. And so we went down on an evening when they were going to try to impose a curfew on the young people on the Sunset Strip. This is 66, something like, no, 64 maybe, 65. And so there were thousands and thousands of kids all gathered together. This is in the 60s, so it's, it was the kind of a nice haze of pot smoke everywhere, and we're all out in the street, and they had the LA police on one end of the Sunset Strip and the sheriffs on the other. And of course, it's the classic pincer movement. They push the crowd together, create a riot, and then beat the out of everybody. So at one point, they're all saying, "Unlawful! I declare this unlawful! I declare this." And so we all sat down. So we all sat down, and I sat down on an open issue of the LA Free Press. And I pulled it out from under my ass, and there was a picture that I was sitting on. And it said, KPFK newsman Peter Bergman interviews returning war veterans from the Vietnam War. And I said, well, I went to Yale with Peter Bergman. And he's now on KPFK, which is the great underground station at that time. And so I said, well, I'll call in the next day. Well, the next thing that happened was, of course, Peter got beaten up, Brandon got arrested. I was writing for the East Village Other at the time in New York. and I had a press card which had a big eye on it. And I held up my card as the cops started, moving in on us and said, "Press, press, press." And they just flowed around me like a hot knife through butter. It was great. So the next day I called up Peter Bergman and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm the Wizard of Oz." I said, "I know, but what are you doing?" He had this show, this counterculture talk show called Radio Free Oz, which was on from like midnight to 3 in the morning on KPFK. And he said, "Come on down, we'll play on the radio." So I went down. Indeed, we improvised on the radio, and I met these two other guys, David Osman and Phil Austin, who were both working at the station. And we all started playing together. It was like word jazz. We all had this surreal comic mind that we shared, and we started creating characters. And I remember that we discovered we were all fire signs. I'm a Leo, there were 2 Sagittarians, and an Aries. Unfortunately, an Aries is stubborn. Anyway, that was awesome. Anyway, and we found that we could improvise well together. We did a thing called the Oz Film Festival, where we showed movies on the radio. And it's possible. And Phil Austin, he was doing what he called the movies for the bedroom. They were adult films. And this is, early in the mid-'60s, before pornography became, totally available to anybody but Fred Willard, who said, some of you remember that. Sorry. So anyway.
Mary's going to hear about that.
Mary hears about everything. So anyway, he shows his movie on the air. It's called Blondie Pays the Rent. That was the name of the movie. And we got a call from someone saying, "You can't show dirty movies on the radio." And we went, "Oh, we got something going here," So we started Bergman actually created the Oz Firesign Theatre. And then we got our first record contract, and Disney sent us a letter saying, "You can't use the name Oz, because we own the rights to it. We're putting out a movie called Return to Oz, animated feature, and you can't have it." We should have said, "Well, we're all Australian. I mean, we're Aussies. You see, Oz Firesign Theatre. You can't take it away from us. Get out of here. F yourself." But no, instead, we knew that it was confusing enough to be the Firesign Theatre. What does that mean? So we just said, okay, let's go with that. And we had this 50-year career, which is one of the reasons why I didn't get to have as much fun as you guys did in the wonderful world of movie land. We'd had a couple of hit records. Our records, will tell you everything. First one was called "Waiting for the Electrician" or "Someone Like Him." The second one was called "How Can You Be in Two Places at Once When You're Not Anywhere at All?"
That was my favorite.
Yeah. And the flip side of that was "Nick Danger, Third Eye." Yeah, you stupid fools! Don't you plot for danger, you idiots! I was Rocky Rococo, the villain in that one, and that was the one that really resonated with the nation, because we were parodying old detective radio shows and movies, and everybody could understand that. And so, but we were taking it way out and going really crazy. We invented the long form comedy album, which was multi-layered with music and sound effects and Foley and Walla and multiple stories. And like the Pythons, we did all of the voices, ourselves and everything. Although we also brought women into it and had singing and music with women, wives, particularly wives. So anyway, and then the next one was called "Don't Crush That Dwarf, Hand Me the Pliers." And that's the one that really caught her. That's the one that's in the Library of Congress right now. That was a parody of television, watching television. And we kind of invented the idea of a remote control, so we could go from one cut to another. Just take people on a surrealistic journey through a television set that told a complicated and multi-layered story that had a plot that ended up. And we also had the guy watching the television who would fall asleep in front of it and dream himself into the scenes. And he was also an old actor at this point, and he was watching his old movies on television. You see, High School Madness is one of his films. So it was a wonderful opportunity to really get into the concept of entertainment, media, and how media was changing the way we all think, and how advertising was changing. It was very successful. And then the next one was called "I Think We're All Bozos on This Bus." And later in my career, I did a lot of voiceover work, and I was doing voices for Pixar movies, the early ones, Toy Story and Finding Nemo and Monsters Incorporated and everything. And I got to meet Steve Jobs at a cast and crew screening up in City Hall in San Francisco of A Bug's Life. And there he is, there's Steve Jobs, and hi, Steve, nice to meet you. You know, and he says, I'm a big fan of yours. I said, what? He said, a Firesign Theatre fan. Well, if you have an iPhone and you say to Siri, this is Worker speaking, hello, she will say to you, hello, Clem, what service can I perform for you? I am Clem, Clem. And it comes off of that album, I think we're all bozos on this bus, which was predicting the computer revolution in 1970, 71. And it inspired him to do what he was doing. I don't know why I wasn't in that movie, you know. Bruce, you probably got the part I was gonna, anyway.
You've done so much cartoon voice work too, and I was looking through your credits, and he has been in all of the big ones, but over 200 credits.
Yeah, I'm probably best known for Howard in the Rugrats, if any of you have kids, right? Well, I'm the father of Phil and Lil. But I've done lots of wonderful, fun voices and villains in games and things like that. But the Drunken French Monkey, I am a social drinker. I got the part because I did a lot of research and development before the first reading. And we did 5 of those movies. It's the Eddie Murphy Dr. Dolittle series. And the wonderful thing about voice work particularly is you can improvise, you can do take after take and play with the character and play with the things that you're doing, which is, and you don't forget your lines because they're all written down in front of you. I recommend any of you guys get into the voiceover industry. It's a ball. So anyway, I am so proud and happy to be a part of this gathering. And I think we're going to have to come back and sit in this audience and have some more fun with everybody because it's just been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Thank you, Philip.